Melink, who is a Forbes book author of Fusion Capitalism, a clean energy vision for conservatives, and he is a clean energy pioneer and a longtime conservative. But he may have a different look this morning on two of the things that President Biden dealt with yesterday, the Keystone XL Pipeline, and also getting back in the Paris Accord. And we're joined this morning by Steve Melink. Good morning, Steve. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Well, it's great to have you aboard. And I said you might have a little different look on this morning. People say, oh, he's a conservative. Right away he's going to go out and say that's terrible what Biden did. What were your thoughts about, the opening day, 17 orders that President Biden decided to execute as executive orders, but two of them dealt specifically with an area that you've been interested in, the Paris Accords and also the Keystone XL Pipeline. I saw Prime Minister Trudeau was not too happy about that. He wants to weigh in on it. But your thoughts, first of all, about the Keystone XL Pipeline, and is that something terrible if we cancel that out now? Your thoughts?
Well, I think canceling it is consistent with the fact that we've rejoined the Paris Climate Accord. It would have been, sending opposite signals if he had rejoined the Paris Agreement and then kept the Keystone Pipeline project alive. So, it's all about the new times in which we live. The climate crisis is real, and this is a priority of the Biden administration. And I'm glad to see that he's taking bold action. I'm a longtime conservative, but I understand the science of climate change, and it's high time that we address it and help lead the world in facing down this problem.
One of the things that I saw in some of your writing, Steve, that you said that the cost of solar has dropped 80% over the last 10 years. I guess when we look at this whole ping pong ball of should we keep the Keystone XL Pipeline, should we not keep it, or, projects like that, I guess for a lot of us as we're trying to find the real true answer and say, okay, how big is climate change and all that, I guess we'd ask the question, I think there's a side that seems to say, okay, we want to hustle along right now and get these other alternative sources of energy in there. Is that what this is about? Pushing it along a little bit quicker. And I've often, asked the question about a transition period. Are we in a reasonable transition period where we're transitioning over to other forms of fuel right now? And is it wrong to maybe push this along before they're more affordable? Your thoughts about that, Steve?
Yeah, we are in a transitional period, and we will continue to be one in the next 10-plus years. Coal has already fallen way out of favor, and, because of its costs relative to solar and wind power. And oil is not too far behind that. Oil is basically liquid coal, and coal is no longer economical. And guess what? The car industry is rapidly moving to electric vehicles that need electricity. They don't need gasoline. And so, yeah, we're in this transitional period, but the good news is it's a great time to be alive and to be in this transition. If you've never driven an electric car, you don't know what you're missing. And so, like the computer age of which I lived through in the 80s, this is just as great of an opportunity to get off of, dirty fossil fuels and go to cleaner energy sources that make us not only healthier, but that will propel our economies through the 21st century.
We're talking with Steve Melink this morning, who is a guy who's worked in clean energy for a long time. Steve, one of the greatest things that has divided our country, and we are divided over a lot of things, has been this idea of climate. And if you say, I wonder about this, all of a sudden you're called a denier, things like that. That's probably not the way to go, especially in keeping with the idea of unity. So how do you reconcile the two? How do you close down this divide we seem to have where it's A or B? There's never, or it's black or white. There's never anything in between. Can you help us with that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I try to simplify climate change in the way that we as average Americans can understand. It's like our planet is like a car sitting out in the hot sun. The atmosphere is the glass in our car, and just like when we park our car in the hot sun, it can quickly, get hot inside. That's a very similar effect of what we've got going on with climate change. They call it the greenhouse effect, but I call it the hot car effect just to make it a little more relatable for the average person. But even if you can't, for whatever reason, get behind the science of climate change, I think everybody can get behind the economic opportunity of being part of this clean energy revolution that is sweeping the world. Businesses across the world are installing solar and wind farms, utilities and governments, and this is an idea whose time has come. And woe unto those who want to stay behind, because they'll benefit the least. Those who don't welcome it, and the same could be said for those who stayed with their
fought off the Industrial Revolution or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like going from the horse and buggy to the automobile, same kind of a thing. It's an opportunity.
Final question, Steve. Just about 45 seconds left here, and maybe we can talk again another time. The Paris Peace Accord, or Paris Climate Accord. We are a nation that generates 25% of our carbon emissions, 5% of the world's population, and yet, a lot of people who didn't really like the accord looked at it and said, what about China? What about India? Places where they have not cared as much about changing over and being safe for the world. The United States has gone about trying to do that. Again, we're in a process. How do you answer that? And again, it kind of bypassed our Congress, which a lot of people were upset about as well. Your thoughts about that as we rejoin the Paris Climate Accords? About 30 seconds left.
Yeah, well, I think there's the old thinking that solar and wind power costs more than old fossil fuels, and that's, again, an old argument. That's quickly becoming not true, and so where we may have viewed it as being a burden to being a leader in this clean energy revolution to get us on the right side of history on climate change, again, now it's a huge economic opportunity. The country that leads this clean energy revolution will be the one who, wins this revolution, like it was like Russia and the U.S. in the moon race of the 1960s. Yeah. So we can't afford to lose this great race of the 21st century.
Well, to be continued. Steve, thanks so much for taking time to be with us this morning. Where can people pick up your book?
Well, they can go online, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any book reseller. It's easy to find, or you can go to fusioncapitalism.com, the name of the book.
Very good. FusionCapitalism.com. Fusion Capitalism, a clean energy vision for conservatives. Steve, thanks for taking the time this morning. I hope we can do it again. I really appreciate you getting up early with us. Thank you.
Wonderful. You bet. Thank you very much.
Have a great time. Take care. Steve Melink this morning here on WSBA Morning News with Gary Sutton.